On the Deputy Speaker's position 2 weeks after Kithure Kindiki was ousted. From Parliament, our political affairs reporter is on standby. We have our political eyes and ears up and about at State House. This is a special coverage. Good morning and welcome to the broadcast. I am Abu Bakr Abdullahi. You can be part of this special coverage. Send us a message on 22047. You can call in on the number on your screen and leave us a comment on our social media platforms. That is at TV47 on Twitter and on Facebook. But first, a constitutional amendment is inevitable if President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech at State House yesterday was anything to go by. The president says he has been discerning for constitutional changes to make right the wrongs in the 2010 Constitution. President Kenyatta has called for a change in the national political architecture, decrying the culture of political selfishness and not selflessness. Aaron Kipkoech begins our special broadcast at this hour.
State House, Nairobi. The venue for Kenya's 57th Madaraka Day celebrations. The least colorful event in Madaraka Day celebrations history.
God bless Kenya.
Nonetheless, the president's speech was as rich as others in the past. In his speech on Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta pushed for, among other things, amendments to the 2010 Constitution.
I am already discerning a constitutional moment, and I want to be clear, not a moment to replace the 2010 Constitution, but one to improve on it. A moment that will right what we didn't get correct in 2010.
The president's remarks come at a time when the country is on a break in the push for the constitution changes through the BBI initiative. The BBI initiative has, however, been a major source of differences among leaders. The president and his deputy too have differed on the BBI process. But when making his 8th Madaraka Day speech as president, Uhuru Kenyatta also called for a change in political architecture in the country.
We cannot reimagine our nationhood also without changing our political architecture. But we cannot change this architecture without re-engineering our constitution.
Uhuru also took a swipe at politicians whose intentions are driven by self-interest and not the public good.
We need political leaders totally committed to promoting not themselves, but what will transform lives of our people in line with what our founding fathers yearned for. Indeed, as Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, "We need political leaders not in love with money, but in love with justice. Not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity."
The State House Madaraka Day celebration event was attended by, among other, opposition leader Raila Odinga, Deputy President William Ruto, and ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi. Aaron Kipkoech, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, that story forms the basis of our first discussion on the special broadcast. Let's bring in Charles Munyui, who is a political commentator. Charles, a very good morning to you, and thank you for making time for us here on TV47.
Good morning to you, Bakal. It's a pleasure all the time.
All right. Looking at
keeping safe and
looking at President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech yesterday during the Madaraka Day address, the president said, and I quote, "10 years later, I am already discerning a constitutional moment, not a moment to replace the 2010 Constitution, but to improve on it." This is not the first time President Uhuru Kenyatta has hinted on quote-unquote improvement on the 2010 document. At the 60th anniversary of the Christ is the Answer Ministries Church in Karen, the president said, and I quote, "If there is anything wrong with the Constitution or any other law, we need to sit down and see how best we can rectify it. Kenya promulgated the 2010 Constitution, of course, in 2010. More than a decade, if not close to a decade. Is it time to relook at the 2010 Constitution?
Well, I think Kenyans have been in agreement, even when we were campaigning for this referendum to bring in the current constitution, because it's no longer the new constitution, it's been 10 years old. Everyone was in agreement. There were some areas that needed relooking at. And the president was very categorical yesterday. He said it's not like we are doing away with the current constitution. We're just touching and working on areas that will serve us better. And he reminded us, even the words of the late Tomboya, about constitutional rigidity, where the constitution should serve you. So when there are matters arising, you deal with them. You don't ignore them purely or simply because you have a constitution that is supposed to be serving. If it's not serving you, and this has been realized as a result of the handshake that he had with the legal opposition. Certain issues were identified that needed looking at, and those issues will be resolved. And as far as those people who gave their views to the BBI team on certain fronts, including constitutional amendments, maybe amendments and to the laws that exist, maybe even coming up with new.
Charles, let me interject you at that point. Why are these amendments, why are these quote-unquote improvements to the Constitution coming 10 years later? Could it be having a political undertone to it?
I think, reminding you of what the president says, it's a constitutional moment. Again, 5 years we have looked too soon. 10 years we have realized there are things that we assume will be sorted out by the constitution, and the immediate next election we don't have known whether the constitution has resolved those issues. And one of the issues is cohesion as a country. One of the issues is this one that's always around there. Every time you have that election cycle, every 5 years we fight. So 5 years later, it would have been too soon because we not have been experienced the first election cycle. So, but 10 years later, way beyond now, when you know this problem is being consistent, then it means you don't want to go the direction the people and even the weaknesses in the constitution are driving you.
All right, Charles, the president is hinting of making right the wrongs in the 2010 Constitution. This coincidentally coming at a time when the Building Bridges Initiative Frontiers were hinting at as well at a constitutional amendment. Is it a political coincidence or a well-calculated move? All right, I understand we have lost Charles, but nonetheless, we'll get back to him as early as possible. Let's move on in our special broadcast. Now, can we say the unexpected happened at State House yesterday? Well, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy were in public together after a long time, and they seemed to gel well despite the ongoing political fights in the Jubilee party. And as Andrin Kilemi reports, the two donned identical outfits.
For the first time in more than a month, Deputy President William Ruto was making a public appearance, this time at the House on the Hill. President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy were meeting at the backdrop of the ongoing Jubilee party purge that has seen Ruto allies axed from party committee positions in the Senate. But their interactions right after Madaraka Day celebrations were far from the expected. The duo exchanged light moments, and yes, they even had identical outfits.
57 years ago, Kenyans made sacrifices for us to have the most important thing in life, that is to make decisions for ourselves and to chart our destiny. We have had a journey of 57 years, and every generation and every government have had to grapple with tough decisions when faced with challenges as a nation.
President Uhuru Kenyatta was quick to criticize politicians who are already rising the political temperatures in the country, urging them to instead focus on development.
As we reflect on the progress we have made, As we look inwards for self-introspection, we must not over-criticize ourselves. And I say so because in the subconscious mind, we become what we repeatedly do. If we repeatedly feed our national psyche with negative energy, we become an nation of angry and frustrated people. Yet dreams cannot flourish in a negative environment whose main currency is anger and animosity.
Sources reveal that the two leaders had a meeting over the weekend, and whatever was discussed is still unknown. On May 1st, during the Labour Day celebrations, Deputy President William Ruto did not attend the function that was also held at State House. He had also been loudly silent on the purge taking place in the Jubilee party, targeting leaders believed to be his allies. Andreen Kilemi for TV 47.
All right, the National Assembly is expected to resume its sittings today, of course, amidst a parliamentary group Jubilee meeting at State House. Our political affairs reporter Elizabeth Mutuku is on standby to brief us on the latest in as far as this story is concerned. Let's bring in Elizabeth Mutuku. Liz, what do we know as of now in as far as the purge and the ouster to come is concerned?
Good morning, just as you said, a lot of affected in the Jubilee party. Already the meeting has ended, and I have seen several, including the Speaker, the National Assembly, from the sources, who is the majority leader, now, and not only that, formed that also, and Cecily Mbarire, who majority whip positions set to bring MPs, including Paulo. Not only the different committees, the budget, where others are various leaders to President Uhuru Kenyatta and Abakar. So the leaders who are also in that together.
We apologize for that glitch. Nonetheless, our reporter Elizabeth Mutuku is on standby. We'll be linking up with her a little bit later in this special broadcast. Moving on. The National Assembly is expected to resume its sittings today after a month-long recess. The House resumes the same day that President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to chair a Jubilee Parliamentary Group meeting for members of the National Assembly. And as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, the meeting is likely to culminate in the removal of supposed party rebels from key House committees.
After a month-long recess, the National Assembly is expected to resume sittings on Tuesday. The MPs come back amid tensions in the Jubilee party, where house cleaning exercise is ongoing. Also on Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta is expected to chair a meeting of Jubilee party members of the National Assembly at State House, Nairobi. The meeting, just like the Senators' one, is likely to decide on the removal of party rebels from the leadership of several House committees. MPs likely to lose their positions in the House include Majority Leader Aden Duale, Eldas MP Eden Keinan, and Kienis Kanini Kega being touted as likely successors of Duale. Further, National Majority Whip Benjamin Washiali is said to be replaced by Navaholo MP Emmanuel Wangwe.
You know, somebody somewhere said Parliament is dead.
This comes even as Senate is expected to hold its election to pick a deputy speaker following Kithure Kindiki's ouster last week. According to the Senate Majority Whip Irungu Kangata, the party has resolved to support Uasin Gishu Senator Margaret Kamar after Kirinyaga Senator Charles Kibiro dropped out. 3 senators are expected to battle it out for the Senate Deputy Speaker's seat in an election set for Monday afternoon.
Senate Standing Order 19.5.
Elizabeth Mutuku, TV 47 Nairobi.
Well, that was yesterday, and our reporter Elizabeth Mutuku is on standby following up on this very same story and joins us live from Parliament. Liz, what do we know as of now? What are the expectations in as far as purges are concerned?
Well, good morning, Bakar Abdullah. Just as you've said, a lot is going to happen in this parliament today. In fact, being that there is meeting today after a month-long recess, and the PG in the State House has just ended with various changes, where I'm informed by my sources that Aden Duale, who is the majority leader, has been retained in the position. And in these changes, Benjamin Washiali, who is the chief whip in this National Assembly, has been kicked out to be replaced by Mauka Maure, and Deputy Chief Whip, who is Cecily Marire, is also kicked out, and he is going to be replaced by other leaders. And also Emmanuel Wangwe, who is Nabaholo MP, is set also to take the position of Chief Whip. And also I'm told the various committees have been touched, especially to the committees where Deputy President allied MPs are in, including budget, where Kimani Ichung'wah has been kicked out. And also Bakar Abdullah, not only that, I'm told in the Senate today they will be conducting election to fill the position of Deputy Speaker, where Kithure Kindiki was ousted. And in this position, Bakar, I am told that they are lobbying, especially Irungu Kangata, who is the Chief Whip, is lobbying to see Margaret Kamar, who is Uasin Gishu Senator, taking over the position. And that is what will be happening this afternoon. But in our subsequent updates, I'll be coming back to you with various MPs, because they are jetting in this place, and I will be getting much of them about what has happened. And I will retaliate this, that Aden Duale still remains the majority leader, with Benjamin Washiali and Cecily Barire kicked out of their positions, and Deputy Speaker and others have remained in their positions. Back to you to studio, Bakar Abdullah.
Well, Elizabeth Mutuku, before I let you go, Parliament is set to resume its sittings today. What then is on top of the agenda in as far as today's sitting is concerned? Elizabeth Mutuku, before I let you go, Parliament is set to resume its sittings today. Of course, this coming after the PG. Lots of politics or otherwise expected. What is the agenda for today?
Today's agenda, Abakar, is just the normal agenda, but then the changes won't be announced in today's sitting. From tomorrow henceforth, that's when we will be hearing about the new changes. But today, only Senate has a major business, and that is electing a new deputy speaker. And in this position, as I've just said, they are set to replace Kithure Kindiki, who was ousted, with Professor Margaret Kamar, who the Jubilee Party is lobbying out for.
All right, our political affairs reporter Elizabeth Mutuku bringing us up to speed in as far as the Jubilee House cleaning is concerned. Let me quote some of the pointers she has pointed out. Majority Whip Benjamin Washiali has been kicked out of his position. So has the Deputy Majority Whip Cecily Barire, replaced of course by Navaholo Member of Parliament Emmanuel Wanga. National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale, who was reported to be under fire in as far as the majority leader's position is concerned, has retained his position, surviving the Jubilee Acts. Of course, this is a developing story that we'll be bringing up to speed with you in our subsequent bulletins and as well in this special broadcast. Now, let me bring in Charles Munyai, who is a political commentator whom we had earlier on the Charles Munyui, whom we had earlier on the broadcast. Charles, good morning. Thank you for making time for us. We were talking of the 2010 Kenya's constitution. Why are the errors, why are the faults of this constitution coming 10 years later?
What was that again? Why are there?
The faults, the errors, the changes that need to be made seemingly visible 10 years after this constitution was promulgated.
Let me put it this way for purposes of our viewers. the Constitution is supposed to serve us. And several years after passing this Constitution, and after the President and the Deputy, the Raila Odinga, Right Honorable Raila Odinga sat down, they looked at issues that have been bothering Kenyans and that have not been resolved by certain provisions of the Constitution, because the Constitution sorts out quite a large number of the issues that we have. One of them is issues of violence every 5 years. So this is not something that is coming with the new Constitution. This is something that has been there with us. And the new Constitution, much as we have, and I'll give you an example. We have rights under Article 39 and Article 40 on where one can live, where one can buy property, and what kind of property you can buy. But that still is a challenge. And you'll find people making a lot of noise around that issue, much as is provided for in the Constitution. If you listen to someone in Nyanza right now, Kisumu Nyanza, for example, with a lot of respect, I'm saying this with a lot of respect, you'll find they're not comfortable. They don't feel like they belong, because the winner takes it all kind of plurality system that we have elections does not serve them, has not served them, much as is provided before in the Constitution. Protections for the same in terms of elections is provided for, but it's not serving them.
Charles, which begs the question, what will guarantee a government of national inclusivity then? Will amendment to our Constitution guarantee that?
What I'm trying to say is this. People who feel like they don't belong. If we, for instance, if you look at proportional representation, for instance, what justifies a constituency like Ruiru having 370 citizens and another constituency having 100,000 citizens, and those constituencies are treated the same? The power of the vote, in as far as the Constitution is concerned, is the same, and that's a concern right there. That you have Kiambu County, for instance, with 2.4 billion people, given less money than a county in terms of the allocation from the national government to counties, given 8 billion shillings, when a county that has way less than that population gets slightly more money than that. And yet, this county is supposed to do development while paying its recurrent expenditure. Those are the things we are saying would not have been known, would not have been seen, because remember, devolution, for instance, came with the talking about. But the challenges that would face devolution including the amount of allocation, how it should be allocated to which counties, that we had no